Jameson. It's been so much fun hanging with you guys again. God bless Monsters of Rock and Larry for coming back. This truly is the spirit of rock and roll, man. We had that year off where we couldn't hang, so welcome back again, everybody. And helping me out today is from SiriusXM, Keith Roth. Say hi to Keith.
So much fun. So much fun. I'm having such a great time, and what a way to start the final day by interviewing the Coop, because we always remember the Coop. I think you're the only guy I know at your apartment who's got a picture of Flush the Fashion right over your bed.
Absolutely. Well, I'm the fan, Alice goes. I have three types of fans. The ones that know the hits, the ones that know the hits, and then a couple of the deep tracks, and the ones that know the albums I don't remember making in the 70s. You're that guy. So we could get really geeky here, but we want to get questions from you guys as well, so we're going to have some mics out in the crowd. And
me and Don are going to talk about the earwigs and things like that, and then bring it out to you guys and girls.
Let's bring out the man of the hour, shall we?
Are you guys ready for Alice Cooper? Should we win it? There he is. Should we bow down?
do we have a microphone for Alice?
Exactly.
That's sort of an important part of this production.
Microphone? Oh, you're sitting on it.
What's your favorite horror movie?
Salem's
Lot. This is by far the scariest vampire ever. Barlow, my man.
How many people were at the show last night? Great stuff, right? It's amazing, Coop. I mean, your long career, and in that 90 minutes, you spanned all of it. I mean, you got everything from paranormal all the way, and Detroit stories all the way back. How do you fit it everything in the set list at this point?
The funny thing is like when we took this thing, they said, well, you can't get the whole show in there. You're not going to be able to do the castle and all that. So it's, you know, our show is put together in a really intricate way, so that each song folds into the other one, and there's a storyline. So when we do this, we're going, okay, we got to do patchwork here. We're going to have to figure out how to do. Last night, we invented a wedding dress because roses on white lace, you know. So there's a wedding dress being built right now backstage. But we used to do that all the time in the early days of Alice Cooper. We had to make our own props. You know, people just didn't make props. We had to go make a toy box, you know. And that's what made it look really nice and handmade and kind of off, kind of dreamlike, is the fact that they weren't exactly right. There was nothing really correct on stage, and that made it even more nightmarish.
A little more community theater.
Yeah. So a lot of this is improvising, and even the set list last night was like, yeah, let's do Is It My Body? Okay.
So it's like the days of the club days, right? Sitting backstage and putting it together that way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This was, in fact, I told the guys last night, this would have been like the East Town or the Grandy Ballroom in Detroit. You know?
Well, I want to say to you,
Detroit girl right there.
You know, you're the soundtrack to so many people's lives in here, and you know, some of my favorite records of all time, which I've told you a million times: Killer, Love It to Death, School's Out, Muscle of Love, and I think Detroit Stories is right there.
Detroit Stories was actually didn't start out as a concept. Bob Ezrin and I decided, let's do just a real hard rock album, just a pure hard rock album, coming out of the plague, you know. Plague was going on at the time. And I said, I think the world needs just a good hard rock album. Can't do that in Nashville. You can't do that in LA.
You needed the Motor City.
You can't do that. And we said, well, where? They said, Detroit. That's the home of hard rock. So we went to Detroit, and then it got, well, since we're in Detroit, and you're from Detroit, why don't we make it about Detroit? You know? And then at that point, then we said, okay, let's use all Detroit players.
And your brother Wayne?
Yeah, we got Wayne Kramer and Johnny B on drums, and I mean, all those guys. You know, I put them in the studio, and instead of layering an album like we did with Nightmare, made a production, I said, this has got to be live. So all those tracks that you hear on that album are all live in the studio.
So you cut it the old way.
Just cut it the old way. Let the band play. Yeah.
You can feel it.
Sorry, Keith. I was just saying. I always think it's cool when an artist wears their origins on their sleeve. You know, it's always weird to me when they kind of separate themselves from where they're from. You took it the exact opposite extreme.
And the funny thing was everybody says, well, I understand it's the 50th anniversary of Love It to Death, which was done in Detroit. It was your first big album. And Bob and I looked at each other and went, really? We had no idea. Everyone thought that that was planned like that. And it was, you know, I can't keep track of when the albums came out. But every week I get,
you need to wiki yourself, right?
It's the 30th anniversary of Lace and Whiskey. I went,
but the one thing about Alice, right, if you saw him in 72 or you see him in 2022, it's the same guy. It's the same performance, right? It's brilliant.
I even got an acoustic song last night, an unplugged song.
Yes.
Most artists don't open with acoustic opening.
Song nobody can hear. That was like, it's the worst thing because now you've got all your energy up. You are ready to kill this audience. And you get out there, and we're singing, I look at Ryan and I'm going, this is the deadest audience I've ever seen. So somebody laced the audience with some, you know, barbiturate or something.
What did I sign myself up for, right?
Yeah, I went, wow, if they don't get this, they're going to hate the rest of the show. So when somebody finally said, nobody can hear anything, everybody in the audience was going, yeah, it's really good. That's good.
I got one more question before we start asking people, but I heard you're working on not one, but 2 records. Is that true?
2 records right now with Bob Ezrin, yeah. Actually, the touring band, I haven't done an album with the touring band yet. So this album will be with the touring band, which is...
So is it a double album or is it 2 individual?
No, just a single album, but, you know, it's working with these guys. It's the best touring band ever.
Top shelf?
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Nita was voted Guitarist of the Decade in Guitar Magazine. So what that did for me, though, I had Ori on piano before that, and Ori was a killer blues player. I mean, she could play with Clapton, she could play with anybody. Ori comes in, and she's a shredder, right? So now that opened up songs from, you know, all Constrictor and Kane Roberts stuff, you know, all that shredding. And that's where Roses on White Lace came from and all that stuff. And then Glenn was voted best drummer in rock and roll. I've got Chuck from Vista Blanco up here. And they had some girl singer that was pretty good. And I called her up this morning and I said, saw 3 or 4 new moves and a couple of mine. And then, you know, we got Tommy, who's in the Vampires with me. And, you know, what a band. It's pretty great. Brian Roxy is one of the great rock and roll guitar players ever.
Yeah, all rock stars, top to bottom, all master players, and you've had this lineup together for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Glenn's probably the newest guy. He's got 10 years now.
Yeah, he's in for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, when I got Glenn, it was sort of, I kind of looked around and this guy said, you know, I said, who's your teacher? He said, Glenn Sobel. I said, oh. And then the next guy, I said, who's your teacher? Glenn Sobel. Who was your teacher? Glenn Sobel. I said, why do I want a student? I want the teacher.
No, the band is, and the way the 3 of them intertwine with each other, where you could feel all their influences and paying respect to your past catalog, it's a beautiful thing. And,
you know, the best thing about this band is they're all best friends.
Yeah.
And so you're never hearing any ego problems backstage. Nobody's ever griping about this or that or this. Everybody's laughing, you know.
Well, we saw it firsthand the other night at the sushi place. Me and my wife are over there, and I'm like, look at them, they're having such a great time. It's a big family affair.
On days off, they hang out together. They all go out together. And it's the same way with the Vampires, too, Hollywood Vampires. Everybody in that band are best friends. We've been together 7 years. I've never heard one argument in that band.
That's awesome.
And how are you handling being on the ship today and not playing golf?
I can live with it. You know, I was in Miami for 2 or 3 days, and so I kind of got my fill of it there.
And actually, earlier we were doing yoga together.
But you know, I mean, I kind of had to. I brought golf into rock and roll only because we kind of kidnapped it. You know, kids were going, my dad plays golf. I hate the fact that Elvis Cooper plays golf. And I went, okay, who else plays golf? Let me see, Iggy, Lou Reed, all these guys that are the underground guys of the world all play golf. You know, and at the same time, it's if you're on the road and you're in Wichita on a Tuesday, what are you going to do? Go to the mall again? Golf, at least you can go out, get out for 5 hours and do something.
So you know every golf course all across America, right?
Oh, I played every one.
Is there one in Duluth, Minnesota? Just curious.
Which one?
Duluth, Minnesota?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. No, if there's we played in Iceland. We played in Moscow. We played everywhere. But the good thing is that Alice hates golf. The character I play, if you put golf clubs on the stage, he would try to figure out how they were weapons, you know.
Is this your first time performing on a cruise?
Yeah, this is, well, actually we did one cruise before where we just played one show, and I really hated it. It was not anything like this. Yeah, this is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, this is really a real true rock and roll crowd.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
24/7. We're going to have them ask you some questions right now.
Yeah, so you can see AJ over here or Dana down here. If you have a question, you know, Coop has answered every question under the sun, so there's no real ground rules. Just don't be a dick.
Please no math, okay?
Yeah. No math.
Want to start stage right over there?
Sure.
He was
So
the
if someone
first
has
one.
a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and start right down here in the front.
I'll get you.
Since you like the cruise, will you do another cruise?
I'm sorry, what?
Will you do another rock and roll cruise here?
Okay, you know, it's a little bit echoey in here. What is it?
Will you come back and do another Monsters of Rock cruise?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it comes up, I like taking Alice show everywhere. You know, I mean, especially if it doesn't fit. You know, I mean, if we were invited to like an old folks' home Valentine's Day, that would be great. That would be great.
All right, we have someone from Detroit down here.
Okay. So I need to ask you, are you ever going to play I Never Cry, or Only Women Bleeds, or You and Me, or How You Gonna See Me Now? Those
ballads.
4 ballads are like, oh God, they take me back.
One, two, she's got 7 for you.
Yeah, the funny thing about
I'm not asking too much, am I?
we've done I Never Cry, we've done Only Women Bleed, we've done all those songs on stage.
Yeah, you did. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You did those 2 back to back at Freedom Hill a few
Yeah.
years ago. I ran out of ladies' room. I was just standing there saying, I would love to hear I Never Cry and Only Women Bleed. I never hear them do them. All of a sudden, I hear one of them. I'm like, oh shit! I ran out of the bathroom so fast, and then you did them both back to back.
Well, the
True story,
funny
Freedom Hill.
thing about it was that those albums all came out during the disco plague, and all the radio wanted to play was disco. So all the hard rock bands, they would get our albums, and instead of playing the hard rock cuts, they would play the ballad. You know, think of it: Aerosmith, Kiss, Alice Cooper. It was just a series of ballads. And everybody kind of thought that we were going soft on them, and I'm going, no, I always put one ballad on the record, you know. But that's the only one that got played. Those were 4 of our biggest hits. And, you know, we do Only Women Bleed because we can do a production around it. And I Never Cry, we did it before they hung me, which was good. Yeah, You and Me, Frank Sinatra did it. He did it live one night. He said, you keep writing them, kid, I'll keep singing them. The operative word there was kid.
I heard he ran out of the bathroom. What you can say about it. Got a question over here?
Yeah, stage right.
Hey Alice, Goes to Hell is one of my favorite albums of yours. What's your favorite song on that album?
Oh, wow, Goes to Hell. Well, I think I Never Cry was on that album. There were so many good songs on that album, only because of the fact that you know, every time Ezra and I get in the studio, we decide what's going to make this album a little different from the last one. Welcome to My Nightmare was right before that, and that was a big, mega production. And I said, okay, well, let's send Alice to hell and have him try to con the devil, you know. because two con men together was pretty good. And he says, let's do something different. Let's use percussion, extra percussion on everything. So we brought a percussionist in, and every single song on that has got all this stuff going on with the percussion. And that was the kind of that was the flavor of that album. I don't know, there's you know, I like, was Guilty on that album? Yeah, Guilty was one of my favorite songs off that.
I love Wish You Were Here. Wish You Were Here? Off that album?
Which one?
Is it Wish You Were Here on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wish You Were
I could hear Tito Puente doing that song.
My dear, Wish You Were Here.
Yeah.
Actually, that was one of the more complicated songs.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Couldn't you hear Tito Puente do that song?
Yeah, you know, there was another song called Wish You Were Here, I think Pink Floyd or somebody like that.
We like Alice's better, right?
This is the, not quite that one.
David Gilmour's pissed off. He's upset up in the pocket.
Guilty would be a good one to put back in the set list. We got a question down here.
Oh, hi, I'm Tess from Toronto, and I do a tribute band, Eyes of Alice. I just wanted to know, Jesus, I just forgot.
I have no idea.
On School's Out, what made you do the Pink Floyd with the Alice Cooper?
Bob Ezrin produced both those songs.
Oh.
Bob Ezrin produced, you know, he's from Toronto, of course.
Right.
And he produced School's Out.
Okay.
And then he also produced Brick in the Wall.
Wow.
And so, when we heard another Brick in the Wall with the kids singing on it, the same way as we did with School's Out, they just kind of like folded in together like that. And they were saying the same thing.
Wow.
You know, so at the end of the show, like when we go into that, you can da 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 da. You know, it fits right in with We Don't Need No Education. And you know, Pink Floyd used to live with us. In the early days in Los Angeles, we played well, this is kind of a great story. We finally got into the Whiskey A Go-Go. And that was the main thing for any young band. If you played the Whiskey, the Doors were the house band there. You know, we finally got in, and it said Alice Cooper and I went, who's Led Zeppelin? True. And nobody had ever heard of either one of us. We were just local bands, you know. And Led Zeppelin walks in, and I looked at Jimmy Page and I went, you were in the Yardbirds. And he goes, yeah. And I said, we opened for you, because we were Yardbirds, you know, disciples. And he says, okay, tomorrow night we open for you. So it was really good. The very next night, we played the Cheetah Club. And it said Alice Cooper and some guy named Pink Floyd.
Now this is Sid Barrett era, right?
Yeah, this is Sid Barrett era. So they ran out of money, and we said, well, you can come and stay with us. So Alice Cooper and Pink Floyd in one house, this little tiny house in Venice, California. And one night they made brownies. I was walking down the street this way. Now, they were great. Glenn Buxton, our original guitar player, his favorite toy in the world was the Echoplex with his guitar. Same with Sid Barrett. They'd go into a room and all you would hear was the sounds just going all through the house, you know, for hours and hours. Yeah. So they were playing things back and forth to each other on the Echoplex. It's great.
I always love the story about getting the original record contract with Frank Zappa and how you showed up at his house. Can you?
Oh well, yeah.
Mind telling that?
Yeah, we. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll make it concise. We had no money at all. We were living in the basement of the Chambers Brothers in Watts during the riots. Okay, so we're like the rats in the basement. And we come up one night, you know, and we rehearsed down there. That's really what we did. And Jimi Hendrix is there. And we had met Jimmy one other time. Jimi Hendrix was living at the Landmark Hotel. Jim Morrison was there and all these guys. And he met Shep, my manager, who's still my manager 53 years later. And he says, Shep, you know, you're a good-looking guy. He says, you're dealing marijuana. And the police are going to catch you because you've got all this money and no job.